Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining today's session on why you should be using AI images in your lessons. So, first of all, we're going to be talking about why AI images. Why are we talking about this? Why would you want to include them in your lessons? Is it just another one of those things where, teachers don't have that much time anyway? So, is it one of those things where teachers have to grapple with these tools and add something extra to their lessons without actually needing to? Secondly, we're going to be looking at some different tools and resources that you can use in your lessons, which are completely free to use and really easy to access just with a simple account. And then we're going to also be looking at some activities that you can use with your students. So you can use them and take them away straight away and use them in your lessons, whether you're at school now or going back to school in a few days in September. Finally, we're going to look at a list of tools and where you can do some further reading as well. So thank you so much for joining the session. Really great to have some of you here with me from the previous session and also some new names as well. If you do write in the comments, we can show your comments on screen, but if you prefer not to, do just send a direct message. So thank you everybody as well for watching on playback. It's so good to have you here, and we'd love to know what you think about using AI images in your lessons in the comments below. So first of all, why are we talking about AI images? So when I think about some of the course books that I use and have used in the past as a teacher, I think that sometimes, there's images of typical versions of things. So typical versions of houses, typical cities, typical landscapes. And to be honest, this isn't the reality for many students. They aren't very inclusive. Some of the houses which are shown in course books are just not representative of the majority of learners around the world. So students can't see themselves reflected in their course materials. And ultimately, that is the goal. We really want students to be able to relate to the content, relate to what they're learning, and then use their language and use what they're learning in the lessons outside of the classroom. Next, sometimes our course books just simply don't have what we need. Perhaps we're doing sort of a narrative tenses or storytelling task, and there's just not much there, or there's the opposite and too much or too many resources to use, and it's difficult to sift through all that content. And finally, I'd say sometimes the images in course books just don't really spark creativity. Often they're stock images. They come from sort of stock photo banks like Getty and Shutterstock. So not only are they not very diverse, or perhaps diversity and inclusion is sort of shoehorned in, but actually sometimes they're just not unique images that don't really spark that much creativity. So AI generated images are unique, always unique. You're never going to get anything else like it. And they can be as unusual and as strange as you like as well. So let's get started by having a look at some of the tools that you can use. So we're going to start with, first of all, a tool which you all know and you all probably use, and it is ChatGPT. So you're going to go to ChatGPT, and if you have the paid version, this is included. And so the paid version is about £14, £12 to £14 a month. It's ever changing, or about $16 to $18 a month. Of course, this is the only non-free version that I'm going to show you today. The rest of the image generators are free. So here's some images that I generated earlier. So the first one, I put my prompt, very simple, very, very simple prompt. Make me an image of a stormy night on a dark and scary looking street. And this is what it came up with. So when I was thinking about this prompt, I was imagining a task like a storytelling task. So I give students my image, and then they decide what story could be built using that image. So this could just be the beginning of the story, or perhaps the whole story could develop around a stormy, dark, scary street like this. Another activity you could do is simply have sort of discussion questions. So my next task that I did here was make me an image of a person on public transport looking excited as if they've had some good news. So again, here you could have some discussion questions. Why is this person excited? What news do you think they've just received? What do you think they're looking at on their phone? What does their facial expression tell you? So there's lots and lots of different discussion questions that you can have around this. And leading on from the storytelling and also the discussion questions, you could actually get students to generate their own AI images. So get them to simply put a prompt into one of the tools that we're going to look at today, and then they can use that as the basis for their own story, perhaps for their own discussion questions. But it's something that they've generated. So it's very personal and tailored to them. So we're really, sort of stressing the importance there of the personalization of lessons. Another task that you could do is real or AI. So you could ask for sort of a photorealistic image. Here, I haven't really done that. You can tell that the people in my images are not real, just from the lighting and the way that the people are portrayed. But if you want to do a photorealistic one, simply add that into your prompt and then get students to decide. Let's go back to the houses example. Do you think this house is real, or do you think it's generated by AI, and why? And then we're sort of bringing that critical analysis into the lesson. So really just using those 21st century skills or those future skills that students can use to sort of analyze AI rather than just using it and giving it to them as is. You could also use AI for perhaps eliciting vocabulary. So you can see my prompt here. Diverse group of adults sitting, having an intense discussion. So you could elicit, what clothes are they wearing? What do they look like? Like, what's their appearance? And again, you could go back to the discussion questions. What do you think is happening in this image? So there's just a couple of ideas of tasks that you could use using some AI generated images. And just touching on the prompts, it's a bit different to text generation, because if you generate AI images, you don't need to put as much information as you would for a text prompt where you're writing CEFR levels, perhaps specific vocabulary or grammatical structures. With an image, it's sort of a lot easier. It does take a bit of honing, but it's a lot easier. As you can see from my very simple prompt, it's generated basically what I was looking for. So let's go to the next tool. So that was on ChatGPT, and that's DALL-E, which has been integrated into the paid version of ChatGPT. Let's go to our next tool. And this one here is called Dream Studio. Now, this is completely free to use, but you'll see in the corner here that there's credits. And when I made the account, it was simply logging in with my Google account. I had 25 credits. Now, you'd think that the images go down by 1 credit each time, but it doesn't. It sort of depends on, I don't know, depends on the power that's being used, essentially. So I've generated about 4 or 5 images, and it's taken me down to 20.4. So I've got 25 free credits to use towards photo generation. So that's quite a lot and could get you through a lot of different lessons, or perhaps even a full term or course. So with this prompt, this was my prompt here. I typed in a photorealistic detective searching a strange crime scene. So this tool is really useful, and it's actually much better than ChatGPT, not just because it's free, but also because there's a lot of things that you can do to help you with your prompt. So first of all, you can choose the style. So there's lots of different styles here. If you don't know some of the terms, maybe the illustration terms or the art terms, you can just use one of these here. Next, you can enter your prompt, but there's also a box here for negative prompt. So when I was thinking about crime, I was imagining my lesson was about crime here. When I first did this, of course, when we're thinking about a detective and a crime scene, there would inevitably be like a body or something on the floor. So I've put avoid dead bodies, and I did it again. I generated it again, and there were no bodies. So you can put things that you want the image to avoid, which is great. You can upload an image for inspiration, and you can also say how many images you want generated as well. The reason that you'd want more than one is because on ChatGPT, of course, you can generate one, and then maybe you have to amend your prompt and then generate another one, and it's just sort of overload and takes quite a lot of time. Whereas with this, I set it to 4. So if I wasn't happy with the first one, I could then use the second, third, fourth, and so on. I think you can do up to about 10 here. Um, so you can see what it's generated for me, and you can click on these and make them slightly bigger. So they're really nice. I wouldn't say they're particularly realistic. You can tell that they're generated by AI, but they could definitely provoke some really good discussion and elicit some really great sort of idioms, expressions, and phrases and vocabulary related to crime. So we've talked about using these perhaps as storytelling prompts, but you could also use it perhaps for something like something to accompany a presentation or to accompany a report or an essay, for example. So let's do one together. Let's delete this negative prompt here. So we want a split screen. So imagine that students are writing an essay about the classic topic that I always go to is living in the city versus living in the countryside. So I want to generate sort of a split screen image to accompany my essay, basically. A split screen of living in the city versus the countryside. What do I want to avoid? People. I only want landscapes in this one. Okay, and let's get 4 images. And then we press dream at the bottom. Oh, it doesn't like that for some reason. Maybe if it's my doesn't like it at the moment for some reason. Don't know what's going on there. Could be that I need to refresh. But oh, here we go. Let's see what comes up. So it only takes a couple of seconds, and it is completely trial and error. Sometimes it will generate exactly what you want. Sometimes it will generate not what you're imagining. So look, this has combined the city and the countryside all together, which could actually be a really interesting discussion about how cities are creeping into suburban landscapes. So yeah, as I said, it is completely trial and error, but you can see some of the things that I've generated earlier. This was when I didn't put my negative prompt in. And I wanted a person fleeing a crime scene on a motorbike in a strange location. I didn't specify what type. So as you can see, it gave me 4 different images here. Not sure what's going on in this image. It is a bit wild. But that's the point of AI images, right? We want them to be a little bit wild. We want them to be unique. We want students to use their imaginations and think outside of the box. So it is worth saying that AI tools are probably the worst that they're going to be at this time. And in months, weeks, even years to come, you know, these things are going to develop. So you'll be able to create videos and all sorts. So that is worth saying as well. So just on the credits here, you can see this went down from 20.4 to 19.5. So it took 0.9 of a credit away. So lots and lots of opportunities for you to generate an image. Now, if anyone in the chat wants to talk about anything and wants me to generate an image for them, just let me know in the comments and I'd be happy to do so. We've had a question here. What are the best prompts to use? So I think it totally depends on your platform. So for example, on ChatGPT, as you could see, the platform was very easy to use and straightforward. Whereas when it's a specific tool only for AI image generation, like Dream Studio, or the next tool we're going to look at called Microsoft Designer, then you do need to be a little bit more specific with your prompts. ChatGPT has the whole text basis and the text data behind it, whereas the AI just image generation tools don't necessarily have as much data as that would be. Okay, so let's move on to our next tool and our third tool that we're going to look at, and this is called Microsoft Designer. So I quite like this tool because it gives you lots of inspiration as soon as you go on there. With many other tools, you sort of just have to think of a prompt out of nowhere, whereas this actually just gives you different ideas of the types of images you can use, also the style of images you can use, and they're really nice for different age groups as well. If you're teaching young learners, it might be nice to have a style like this, and you can see what the prompt is. and you can actually replace what it says in purple with your own ideas. So it's already given you that it's a claymation style, and you can simply replace the prompt with the things that you want. So we can continue on and see some more inspiration down here. I always think these images are really nice, this style. This one is hyper realistic, and yeah, it basically goes on, so it gives you lots and lots of inspiration for your prompts. So when we go up to the top here, as I said previously, you can just simply pick a prompt out of nowhere, or you can try an example prompt. So this is similar to what we've seen with the example pictures on this one. You can simply change what you want here. So they've given you an example, a lake with a single red barn centered in the middle, and on and on and on. But you can just change it to like something like a river with a so on, so on. So that is really useful. And you can also edit the entire prompt as well if you don't like what they've given you. But each time you refresh the page, it will give you a different support prompt, essentially, which is really useful. Okay, so all of these tools are, well, Dream Studio and Microsoft Designer are completely free to use. And yeah, you can choose the size of image, the pixel image as well, if you want it sort of high resolution or lower resolution. And you can download all of the images and save them to your computer. So as we said, we can use them for discussion questions, for storytelling tasks as well. Another idea would be a task which you've probably done in class before, where you have students sit back to back. They've generated their own image on an AI tool, and they have to describe the picture to the student behind them, and that student has to draw what they've described. So this is a really good activity for practicing sort of prepositions. So you could say, for example, there's a dog in the bottom left corner, there's a man in the center, he's standing up. So there's lots and lots of different vocabulary that can come out of that. And it's really nice to use an AI image for this, because it's not your typical image that they might be expecting or sort of imagining in their mind. It's completely out of the box. You could also do sort of like a problem solving task where students have to sort of solve a mystery using the image. So an image like that crime scene that we've shown would be a really good example of that. What do you think the crime was? What clues can you see in the image to solve the crime as well? We've had a question, what's your favorite one to use? My favorite tool is actually just ChatGPT, because, you know, I do pay for that. But if you do want the free one, I do think Dream Studio is wonderful, because it does give you the option of having up to 10 images per prompt. So that saves a lot of power and, of course, a lot of thinking with your prompts as well. However, that being said, if you do struggle for inspiration, do use that Microsoft Designer, because there are lots and lots of images for you there to use. So there are many, many AI image generation tools you can use, but I just wanted to show you the most straightforward and simple and easy to use ones in this session. So if you are interested in further reading about AI image generation, then there's a really, really good blog. And it's called, I will show you here, it's Zapier. They have always really good blogs on using different AI tools. And this is the best AI image generators in 2024. Now, this breaks down not only into the best AI image generators, but it also tells you how to access them, the cost of them all, and a little bit of a recommendation for each of them as well. You've got your more technical stuff on how AI image generation works. You can see some nice dogs in the clouds there. But it's also got this really useful table here. So it talks about what it's best for, different access options, the price, and if you're interested in sort of more about the company of it as well. And there's a breakdown on each tool. So this Zapier blog is really, really useful for all AI tools, not just AI image generation. There's also text generation and so on and so on. So thank you all so much for attending. We've had some great questions and great comments coming up in the chat. Hopefully we've got round to answering them all. If you do have any other questions on AI image generation, do feel free to send us an email, info@eltcpd.com, or you can comment below as well, and we'll always reply to you. Don't forget that we will be giving YouTube live streams once a month, every month, at the end of every month, usually around this time as well, on lots of different topics and not just AI. Do share this video with your network and other teachers that you think would find this and other teacher training sessions useful. And if you do have an idea for a YouTube live or a training video that you would like to help you in your lessons, do feel free to get in touch or leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and you can find us on social media at ELTCPD. Thank you all so much for attending, and thank you for everyone watching on playback as well. And we'll see you next time.